Hello all. I believe we are live, and it's good to be with you. I hope the internet connection will support this. It says the uplink is fine, and it's relatively stable, although it's rather slow. But I do hope you can hear me. And what I will do is I'll record the meeting offline, and then I'll post a link to it. So if any of the messages or the sound jumps, you'll be able to find an offline recording where you can get it. So with that, I hope we'll get through this without too many technical difficulties. And of course, first off, thanks a lot to Suzanne Madsen for donating, and thank you to Natalie for your continued support. And I'm looking forward to channeling the 90 Pleiadian Council today. I haven't worked with them before, but channeling the 90 councils is it's rather easy because they're these very stable collective entities that you can easily communicate with, and of course I'm bringing you the generic brand of what Wendy Kennedy is doing. But I really love the stuff that she does. So I'm looking forward to also connecting us to them today. And Lisa says greetings and love from Denmark. It's good to hear from home. And they're good to see so many of you guys. It's lovely. As you can tell, I've gotten a little sunburned over here, but I think everything will be all right this Sunday. So lovely to see you, Kevin, and AJ, Veritas, and Laura, Adelina, and yes, Salish, I believe, and he says sorry about the semifinals. You know, in Denmark, we say it's not about winning; it's about participating, and we're also used to the British playing unfair tricks, like you stole our navy in 1807, and we never really recovered from that. Oh, we're doing fine now, but I believe it's only 9 countries that England hasn't invaded at some point. One of them being Sweden, so you couldn't even do us that good turn. So that's just to say we expect you to play unfair, and you live up to those expectations. But with that degree of showmanism, and just kidding. I am actually rooting for England in the finals. Though I don't keep up much with football, to be honest. It's always fun with these summer tournaments. And greetings to Canada too. And I think what I will do, just sensing, the energies that are over here. So instead of, I'll probably get around to answering a question from everyone, but I think I'll just let intuition guide it, and pick the questions that are the most interesting to have them answered. And it's also, I come from this culture where don't bring candy to class unless you have enough for everybody, and everybody gets their turn and stuff. And in Mexico, it's the country of sacred ball courts, right? So winner takes all, and losers get their hearts removed with an obsidian knife. So let's try to work a little with those energies instead. But so much love to you guys. Thank you for being here, and I'll call in the council, and let me know if there are any difficulties or anything, and you can't hear me. And other than that, I'm looking forward to channeling today. So let's get going. Yes, greetings to you, humanity. We are the Ninth Dimensional Pleiadian Council, and we are most pleased to be interacting with you this day. We bring you the unconditional love and guidance from the Seven Sister Stars, and we are here before we answer your questions to deliver a message on the changing fluctuations of time. And so we have entitled this transmission, Moving from Time into Light. And the idea is that you seem to perceive time as something quite continuous, and this has served well, but now notice that it's becoming multidimensional. This fundamental layer that structures your experience and reality is becoming much more akin to the force of light. And what is light? Light is the force that both illuminates and creates and makes experience possible, but it is also something that refracts and, well, plays off the experience that's perceiving it. So it's the prismatic realization that all your lives, as they become multidimensional, they refract into these patterns. And these patterns, they are perceived by your experience, they are picked up by your senses, and then they are ordered by the preference that you impose upon it. This means that when you look at the prismatic reflection of one type of light, you will have a tendency to either notice the green patterns, the red patterns, or the purple patterns, whatever you prefer, but your experience selects what is going on. And the same thing is happening with your time. The same thing is happening with the refractory pattern of your story. See your personal story as the way that time manifests itself in your personal reality. It is the way that you perceive yourself. And so try to take note of the nodal points that present themselves in your any given moment. In any given moment, the refractory patterns of your memory, of your experience, and of your apprehension future, they are changing, they are altering themselves to fit themselves into the basic vibration of you. Can you arrive at a point where you are in something that is not produced by time, but is perceiving yourself as a product of time, as something that's being created out of your perceptions, out of the refractory pattern you impose upon it? And so much as you will begin to notice different colors, different orders of harmony, higher orders of harmony as you move into a higher vibration or a higher degree of aligning with that eternal, loving, wonderful part of yourself. This also happens in your perception of time. And there will also be possible for you not only to perceive the visual wonder of other beings and of other creatures, but also perceive the historical wonder of other beings, of other entities, of other intelligences. This is our encouragement to you, to know that you are being ordered inside a complex refractory pattern that you can also, with your perception, and you can use it to move into a more positive version of what you prefer to be. With that degree of selection, think of yourself as a kid in a candy store that's able to pick out the colors of the rainbow and then stretch them across time to fit into the pattern that you prefer. This is the advice we offer you, and we bless you with the light of the sister stars as we move into answering your curious questions this wonderful day. Our unconditional love to you, sweet human beings. We are the ninth dimensional Pleiadian Council, and we enjoy communicating with humankind. Yes, I certainly hope. It seems it's a little frozen here, but I hope it's coming through. And there's nothing I can do about it. So let's just see if they will work out these the technique of Mexico. Senescence also says. Laura says, greetings and love to everyone, Mass and the Pleiadians. Hello, beautiful souls from Slovenia. Hello, Slovenia, and beautiful soul. And Autumn Rose says, hi, Mass, happy Sunday. Happy Sunday to you, Autumn Rose. Good to have you here. And Darren says, hello and greetings. Good to have you here too, man. And Liliana, so many of the wonderful usual suspects are here. It's good to see all of you. And so Kevin poses the first question. And he says, I'm interested in the capacity of using body consciousness and my DNA to give it instructions. This question does not pertain to if one should or should not get the COVID vaccination. It regards the capacity of the human being able to act as its own mRNA and insert the energetic imprint of COVID antibodies through one's will. That's a very interesting question. Very cool. Let's see what they say. Yes, we sense that this is a helpful perspective to bring forward to humankind. Realize that what you are essentially doing in the dimension of language, as you phrase it, speaking to your own body codes and reprogramming your DNA, is you're building a bridge from your energetic self to your mental self. And the dimension that you build this is through language. But the dimension that you want to access this reprogramming of your DNA, it is rather language before language. So try to express yourself rather in tone or maybe in mantra. You can even phrase you can phrase a sentence that says, I want to strengthen my immune system. And you could say immune system, good, better, best. That would be a type of subtle programming that you could then turn into a mantra, and repeating this to yourself through several repetitions in one sitting, and maybe repeating this sitting for, you can do it several times a day, or you can choose to do it one time for a succession of days. But this will help to protect, because essentially this is a type of neurological reconfiguration that you're opening with. Well, also know that these are, of course, all permission slips. So if you were to get the disease that you fear, this will also be a way of instructing yourself in something that will help you bring you forward and onward to a more preferred reality. That is, if for some people, and we know this may sound cynical, the preferred reality is dropping off this physical plane and return spiritual self in order to have another incarnation experience what you usually know as death and rebirth. And this is a way of approaching it. But rather, we would consider why it needs to be so complex for human beings. So try to take note of your own sense of exceptionalism, and try to be wary of the patterns that you bring forward in this sense of exceptionalism. That is, if the vaccine seems to be working for millions and millions of people as an effective permission slip in order to actually reconfigure the DNA, and in order to actually come into a place where you feel that you are no longer accessible to the reach of this disease or the influence of this disease, this is an effective way of programming it. Your collective spiritual self, or your nine-dimensional human collective self, this is also, in a sense, a way that you are reprogramming your DNA structures into being able to reconfigure yourself. The future is not written, and so this project of reconfiguring the DNA opens up to the vistas where you may be able to program yourself as a species into different types of genetic patterns. This is, for instance, the creation of different type of hybrid human beings from emerging from your technological self. We are aware that this can seem like a dangerous process, and indeed it might be if you are holding on to the perception of humanity as it is. But we would also say that, well, your idea of human beings, as it has worked for you in the past, hasn't necessarily served you all that well, and so you're trying to move to these different patterns. And so yes, you can do all these things, and it is helpful, but as long as there remains a sense of doubt within you that you are still susceptible to this disease, it won't necessarily work for you. So the conviction that you put into that permission slip of the vaccine is much easier for a lot of people to latch on to than the spiritual reprogramming of yourselves. And ask yourself, why is it that you do not want to participate in this collective program? Why is it that you feel that you must be in opposition to collective forces and to collective programs? Why is it that you feel threatened about these things? Because it essentially has nothing to do with your trust in new technologies. All of you are experimental subjects to new technologies. all of you are right now placed in front of the internet, and none of you have any idea of interacting with the internet. But you just seem to perceive that there are immediate benefits that outweigh any possible hidden long-term effects. And you can use this approach in any kind of technology. All of you, or most of you, own a cellular phone. You have no idea of how these radiations from these devices may affect you long term. And indeed, they are also reprogramming your DNA, but you do not perceive it as such. So be wary of any narrative that you latch onto that allows you to feel special or set aside from the rest of humanity. Instead, try to find a way where you can participate. And if you do not want to take the vaccine, try to find other positive manifestations of this wish within you, and then try to share them. So for instance, creating an energy circle or creating a type of shared energetic exchange that is, you could think it almost as a sing-along to prevent yourself from those vibrations that come in from the disease. That will be more effective. Establish a new collective if you're not suited with what the collective is offering you. That is the most helpful way to perceive this. But in the end, none of you can interact with this without allowing yourself to also work a little with your fear. And as long as that fear is directed towards something threatening coming to you from the outside, you may not feel that the vaccine is serving you. But as long as you are able to shed that fear and say that I am constantly allowing for things that I don't control or impositions from the collective to impede me in my life or to direct the process that I am carrying out, then you may also seem that this is something you can participate in safely. We know that it may be difficult for human beings to have these absolute choices to deal with, but they are choices for you to make, and you are very powerful creators in whatever you choose to do. We bless you in whatever you choose to do, our friend, and we thank you for this question. Fascinating. And Jochen says, what is the nearest planet where humans could live, and what beings live there? Yes. Although we do sense that this is not exactly what you are asking about. So what your question may be implying is the idea that there is an Earth-like ecosystem existing on a planet that you could seek out. But notice that your present state, you would reach this you would launch from this planet, and when you reach that other planet, circumstances there may have changed so gravely that you would no longer be able to sustain yourself. So from your present technological vantage point, you are not wrong in discerning that terraforming Mars would perhaps be much easier for you than actually moving to another planet. The closest heavenly body to which you actually move your civilization and sustain yourselves for the energy is the moon of Europa that we believe is circling Jupiter. And this already has life forms, so these life forms are more microbiological. These are different types of bacteria that exist in quite cold temperatures. And so they are more reminiscent of some of the bacteria that you discover underneath the Antarctic ice cap. This is a place where you will be in approximately 5 million years be able to change the environment into a degree where you could actually alter. But we would say try to remain on planet for the moment. There are plenty of versions of Earth that you could live on, all parallel in this reality. And as you become multidimensional, it is much easier for you to move between dimensions than it is to move in physical space. And the closest planet we sense, and not being able to access the human name from the information of this vessel, we do sense that there is a planet approximately 3.5 million light years away that would be greatly suited to human beings or human needs, but it is in a sense already occupied by a type of plant-like life forms that are at present colonizing this planet through a network of roots that they are stretching out, and there they are in a sense terraforming this planet into their more preferred realities, such as you are doing with your own planet, and such as the trees and the algae have done with your atmosphere here. So notice that these creatures wouldn't necessarily be very accommodating to you at this point, but you will get there. And when you move into these dimensional realities, you will sense that you can jump between these planets, but it is much more fun for you to observe the processes of life being carried out locally. You will solve the ecological crisis that you use here, and therefore it won't necessarily be relevant to you to exist physically on other planets. Rather, it will be more relevant to do as well as some of our former manifestations have done, your Pleiadian friends, or some of other species have done, that they come through the veil, they jump through the dimensions, and then they enter into this space to interact with the life forms there, rather to colonize it. These are the perspectives we will bring you, our friend, and we are very happy and bless you with this question. Our unconditional love to you and to all of you human beings. They have this very low throaty vibration, which is cool. And Jana asks, how do I encounter moments where, while fully engaged, still the timelessness is most experienced? Thank you. Yes. We are asking our friend here to translate this phenomenon that you are asking of us, because to us it is very hard to perceive your perception in this. That is to say, notice that in a sense moments are defined by time, and so you are speaking of a paradox when you want to experience timeless moments. But well, you can move into all those techniques that you have developed a long time ago in your different spiritual systems or techniques. These are known as mindfulness, meditation, mantras, song. So go to temple. That is, go to the temple either of yourself, or seek out a place where you can share these energies, higher vibrational energies, and you feel absorbed and immersed. Move into the flow states. And when you move into the flow states, well, what you are experiencing is essentially a communication with your timeless self. And this is without moments. This is perceiving all of you as compressed into one single point of experience. That is, we are introducing a spatial metaphor to balance out this idea of time, because this moment is essentially not a moment. This experience of timelessness is essentially exactly without time. And so where you can do this is all the places where you feel called to, where you feel you are in a flow state. And this usually comes from cutting off your thought, which is usually something that then contains language. And when it contains language, you find yourself in the temporal realms. So the more you can move away from language in your experience, the more you can focus, for instance, on impulses, feelings, or visuals. That will be much easier to you. But we do experience that four-dimensional beings, as you have been, it can be quite difficult to deal with this paradox of still being carried through the river of time, still, but stay on the raft, so to speak, instead of this is the place that you move into. And you personally, you would do well with trying to focus on your navel center and trying to pack life energy, prana, ki, whatever you choose to call it, Holy Spirit, down into your navel center and allowing it to sit there. And notice that when you are engaged in this process, you are not dealing with a perception of yourself or an idea of yourself as a temporal being, but you are instead sensing the eternal energy is being expressed momentarily, so to speak, in your own physical being. That is our encouragement to you, dear human being. We bring you our love in this, and we bless your process. I actually like them a lot. Just getting a little used to their vibration. And thanks for beautiful questions, guys. Can we know about AJ asks, can we know about the consciousness of whales, any kind, particularly orcas, as there have never really been any recorded attacks on humans in the wild, even though they're predators? Yes, these beings, these cetacean friends, these were the beings, let us say, when we perceive the orcas from our vantage point, these are the dolphins that got so sick of being preyed upon that they decided to grow into a structure where they were the apex predator. But the impulse that fed this was essentially more the impulse of being left alone, to be un to to be so defended by their physical framework that they did not need to defend themselves. And therefore, know that the orcas are not necessarily interested in taking life that doesn't serve them. Also, you get a weird and unpleasant smell to them. These beings who have their own languages and types of communication and are able to discern things energetically, they usually don't care for eating on human flesh, as most human flesh, as they sense it, also has a lot of pollutants in it. So is that yummy seal is for that your cetacean, much of your marine life, beings that are communicating with, let us say, more flowy creatures in the cosmos, the Syrians being the dominant creatures that also interact with you and that are very aligned with beings. And so creatures that in a flow state and that do not necessarily take anything that they don't need to their perspective. For instance, from their perspective, the human physical frame is quite unhelpful. You have arms that latch onto things and don't know when to let go, whereas they only have vibration and amounts when it needs to and closes when it needs to. They are a vibrational system where they are constantly receiving and enjoying this flow of things. They do not eat unless it is necessary for them. Instead, they sing when it is necessary for them. So sing all you can to align with the orca spirit. These creatures are indeed benevolent, and do not fear them. Blessings to you and to these holy beings that swim in your seas. And Anne asks, any spiritual message or any other for my husband, Robert, at this time? I'm happy to do it, but please, if you have loved ones or who needs these messages, it's that they show up and ask them that themselves. It's something I've been dealing with, that some people who are into channeling and spiritual content, they have loved ones or people, they acquaintances who they would really like to be open to this stuff, but if they're seeking out themselves, it's because they're not open to this stuff, and that's perfectly all right. But don't necessarily but that also means that they're not necessarily receptive to the things that are being brought forward. So that's just a sort of a disclaimer, that try to respect that people are where they're at, and if you have a spouse or anyone who feels that this isn't actually important to them, respect where they're at, but let's let what they say from this. Yes, as our friend here was saying, also notice that what we are interacting with is the energy that is being offered by his higher self, then being redacted through his perception of himself, then being translated to you, then being redacted by your preferred perception of him, and then being transmitted to us. So the idea that we would be able to transmit a message from his higher self when there are so many layers of sense to move through is not necessarily helpful. What we sense instead is that, well, the essential message for him is that he's allowed to, yes, he doesn't need to develop. He can cross his arms and wait for things to change. And when he feels that there is something that's calling him and that actually tickles his fancy, moves his curiosity, calls his attention to be activated, he will move into this place. And so he has his own excitements. They serve him as your excitements serve you. And that is the most positive message that we can offer him this day. And we bless you for your well wishes and your love for the higher energies that want to connect them to Earth. We thank you for that, our dear human friend. And AJ says they're so curious and intelligent, yet incredibly strong and possibly dangerous. They still don't seem to hurt people, aside from the incidents in captivity. Um, yes, that's also I think captive animals, they often pick up on the very hurtful things we do to them, and then they they begin to have these more crazy behaviors. So yes, I love the orcas too. And Catherine says, "Thank you for your beautiful words today. Would you be able to share with me details about my most recent past life on Earth?" Yes. Yes. See, as you become multidimensional, you also begin to realize that from the perspective of your oversouls, you are having a multitude of experiences simultaneously. So essentially, your soul configuration, not the exact configuration of your higher self, which is uniquely you, but stepping up to a layer above that in the fractal construction of these soul layers, you are having several multiple experiences. But what you are aiming at, the one that is feeding into you most presently, it is a lifetime. And we are getting that you are driving a truck. So, yes, you are driving a truck or a lorry, as we believe it may be called in of the language we are coming through. And so you lead a free life on the road. It's actually quite an uncomplicated life. You listen to the radio, you stop at rest stops, and there you have sausages and steak, and there you have some beer, and then you check into a motel or something similar. We sense that you are living approximately in the heartland of the Americas. We are getting the state Missouri for some reason. And so you became a little bored, but the fact that you were experimenting with this pattern was because you had had a lifetime before that that was very dramatic, where you had lived the life of a getting the life of a ballerina here, and that had been very expressive, and that had been also a lifetime where you were what is sometimes today known in modern terms as anorexia, but you were denying yourself the access to foodstuffs, and you were dealing with this very high, almost frenetic vibration that was moving through your body and that you had learned to express through dancing and pirouetting and expressing yourself. And so notice that what often happens for you species is that you choose a contrast point. So you have this type of truck driver life, and now you are trying to integrate these different energies. So the best thing you can do in this lifetime is to allow yourself to enjoy and savor the foodstuffs without going overboard. And well, this past lifetime, we sense you passed away from stomach cancer in approximately the year 1987. around the turn of the year 1988. And so you might also want to be very kind to your stomach in this lifetime and really allow it to expand without filling it with too much heavy stuff, but also feeling that it wants to ground and connect to Earth. We bless you in connecting to these past lives, our friend. And Sailis has any messages for me? We send three beings pulling the levers of a spaceship. And here you can seat yourself in the center. That is that your astral self is very, very active. And therefore, it would be helpful for you to beam into the flying saucer and seat yourself in the middle. And there, try to know that these three beings, they are essentially very willing to take your commands and to guide the spaceship where you want to go. So you are served by perceiving your Merkaba, your vessel, your astral self traveling in a spaceship, and here you can move to the realities that you want. This is something you can play. You will have a lot of fun with it, but notice that these navigators' energies, they're very strong within you, and therefore go exploring, go flying under the stars, and you will meet everything you seek out there. Our blessings to you, our friend. And Shyam says hello. All happy to be here. Good to have you with us, man. And Suzanne asks, blessings to you all. Many Pleiadians and other beings are able to give very personal and helpful information to others. Where or how do you get this information? We understand this is a very helpful question. Notice that you might think of the same. If you were to think of yourself as a child, notice how you marvel at what adults know. So the fact that an adult can, for instance, tell you about how things look like in a different part of the world, or they can tell you about things that you have never seen, that seems quite impressive to the child. But if you were to ask an adult, where do you receive the information that you already have, most of them would scratch their heads and says it's just something I picked up along the way. And so it is essentially just something that we pick up along our way, or our movements up the ascending ladder of the dimensions. And where we read this information, essentially from human beings, is in that dimension that you call the fifth dimension. Different words for this. The Western word would be ether, and the Indian word would be the Akash. These are different ways to think. Know that you are perspective manifestations of a energetic that has certain super temporal configurations that lie beyond the realm of time, and it is this pattern that contains all the information of all you have ever been, all you will ever be, and all you are right now. And those are the informations that we discern, but we can only discern the informations that are being offered to you by your higher self. Your higher self is that eternal part of you, which exists in the Akashic. Above that, in the higher realms, you will begin to come into higher and higher manifestations of your soul that are less and less influenced by fluctuations in time until you emerge from source. But where we read this information, or we receive it from your higher selves to translate into you, it's essentially in this dimension, super temporal dimension of energy, where everything is present at once. This is where we discern it, and this is also something that you can learn to move into and read. So there are plenty of human beings who are able to interact with or go into the Akashic or perceive other people as energy forms and discern that information without necessarily having to use the intermediary of a higher vibrational, a higher dimensional being. For others, this serves them very, very well, that they call upon these friendly energies from higher places. But it is that temporal part of you. And if you were to perceive that part of you, or super temporal part of you, if you were to see that part of you, it would look much more like a sphere of different colored energies that luminously shimmer in different colors, depending on what energies are being fed into your physical self. So try to, if you want to discern this information in others, try to look at other beings and then say, if I were to remove their physical frame, how would this person as a thought form, how would their energetic pattern look to me right now? And this is where we discern the information. And you might be surprised then at the very clear information that you receive about, for instance, their past lives or where their future is headed in the patterns. We bless you very much. Know that this is essentially the path that you are ascending into, and this is how you will perceive human beings in 100 years from now, more illuminated from the back by this energy, and only having a more faint outline of the physical bodies to sort of limit this into the physical space. We bless you and thank you for this question, our friend. Yes. And Lisa asks, almost the same as Suzanne has asked, how many different intelligence are interacting in the Earth form, the Pleiadians? How many planets, dimension, races? Please tell something about that. Fascinating. And I see the image is freezing here somewhere, but I'm just hoping that the sound is getting through. Yes, essentially, as many races are inviting in, are interacting with you, as many beings from the realms of the Fae, as many beings from demonic realms, as many beings from the angelic realms, as many beings from the astral realms, as many beings from the physical realm. All that is to say, in the physical realms, where we sense this may be relevant to you, there are approximately 7 races right now that are very, very invested in how human beings are developing. These races, most of you know all the names of. These are the Pleiadians, and by that we mean a specific subset of Pleiadian, the first seed race that is mainly responsible for you developing. These are the Arcturians, these are the Fendorians, these are the Syrians, these are aspects of the reptilians. These are the Orions, and these are the Elohim. These are the 7 races that are most invested in your development right now. There are plenty of other races that are consulting them, and all of the entire intergalactic council of light is in a sense active and receiving reports on what is going on Earth as you are moving into this ascending pattern. And what will happen is that you become more and more aware of this galactic membership. See, as you also know, the planet has been shut off. There has been a type of energetic barrier surrounding it that means that you are unable to move beyond your solar system. But those have been removed, and now higher energies are flowing into your planet and changing your physical makeup and the structure of this planet in its vibrational pattern, and thereby also the structure of all of you who reside on it. And this also means that it will be much easier for you to go to the meetings of the Intergalactic Council, where there are approximately right now, from the moment of which we speak, 11,235 races that are very active in the development of this. We thank you for this question, and we hope it was illuminating to you. Many blessings to you, dear one. And Shyam asks if there's any message from my higher self for me. I would be happy to hear. Namaste, Shyam. Namaste. Yes, it's saying that try to find your inner twin. what some of you know as a twin flame can also be thought as a part of your internal self that has been shut off, then extrapolated or sensed then outside realm instead. So where you may also have been exploring themes of love, attraction, connection, notice that there is a part of you, a sweet softness within you, a feminine self that wants to be reached and expressed and integrated into your physical body. And so the more that you can interact with wonderful being, and you can approach her through the wonderful energy of a crystal. This is a diamond. Know that if you think of her as something that's so bright that it's almost made up of light, but she still looks like you, she just looks like a feminine part of you, that's really the part that's trying to reach out and hold your hand. And when you reach your hand and connect to it, this diamond energy will begin to flow into you, and then you will become this beautiful being that has both forces manifesting within you, and it will open up to a far greater degree of certitude, security, allowance into. This is where your higher self would like you to move, and we bless you and thank you for allowing us to transmit that message. Okay, I'm just gonna ask them why they speak in such a throaty voice. So that will be an interlude, and then back to the questions. Well, we speak in such a throaty voice because our energy is essentially activating the experiment of human expression. And this expression is essentially the part where when your heart center becomes integrated, it moves up into the throat chakra where it wants to express itself. And so by moving this vibration through your bodies and by activating it and expressing ourselves in your vocal cords like this, we are trying to activate that center. And again, notice that we have pointed to you singing or bringing forward tones, because when you sing and bring forward tones, you are essentially allowing for a greater type of interpersonal expression to reach them. So this is the energies that we are interested in also stimulating and configuring. And since we do that, it's helpful for us to move air through the passageways of the human vocal cords in this way. That makes sense. And Laura says, my love and gratitude to you. As I understand, there are at least 12 strands. I've recently started hearing there may be more. Are there various octaves of each strand? Are there more than 12? Also, 8 heard the 7th, 8th, and 9th strands carry Lemurian DNA. What is your perspective? 9, this and further, how do the DNA from our star families woven in? And from your perspective, do we carry our cash in our DNA? If so, as we are making more of our DNA, is this part of what is meant by embodying our higher selves? It's a very interesting question. Thank you, Laura. Yes, the 12 strands relates to the 12-dimensional ladder. It is this idea of certain things becoming or facilitating the passage of universal energies into you. Notice that, and we are in a sense again correcting the perception of human beings, that is, you have had a function, and especially because you emerge from the 3 dimensions where everything is very, very solid. Those are the knock on wood's table where you can feel reality as something static, stable, that you can reach out and touch. But as you move into this, you become aware that, well, you are not containing the information within your DNA. The configuration, specific configuration of your DNA as it is now, is channeling in the information that is stored non-locally in the Akash. So your memories, your perceptions of yourself, your story that you perceive, your actual physical configuration. This is all interpretations this is all interpretations that consciousness make through that energetic framework which you consist of. And so yes, the DNA can in a sense, these 12 strands, they can in a sense be related to your ability to beam in these energies. And so as you connect them to the Lemurian DNA, it has to do with the pattern of humanity as a higher dimensional species, first being very much explored in Lemurian energies. And so as you move in and align with the higher non-physical chakras, you will begin to see a lot of this activation and notice that these strands, they have also the idea of memory beyond the 7-dimensional scale of 7 strands of DNA channeling into the physical and moved into the non-physical, or these higher vibrational energies that allow for the activation of other parts of your DNA. You begin to remember fully who you are. You begin to know what your purpose is in the greater grand scheme of the universe. And you begin to understand that you, as you think of it, is essentially a pattern looking forward to interpret the all into something specific. We hope this answers your questions. We know it's very difficult to balance these realizations with concepts and categories that you are used to working in with human beings. And that is why so many of your fellow star brethren also likes to come to your assistance, or also like to come to your assistance in this work, because it is in a sense a slow activation of your DNA. There is in a sense many more, but you can think of the 12 main strands, such as essentially there is also an infinite amount of dimensions, but they are all latched onto those strands that make up the basic 12 dimensions. And so think of these lesser strands more as the different strings that make up the rope of one of the strands, or that make up the rope of one of the dimensions. This is your DNA was constructed to configure sacred patterns into the physical, and then configure energetic patterns into the energetic realities, and configure illuminated patterns or patterns of infinite creation into the specific or the manifested realms. We hope this has served you more than it has confused you, and we thank you and bless you as you move in the activation of higher vibrational codes. And Ashen says, I have a troubled relationship with my father. I wanted to know if this is because of past karma. Thank you. It is for the both of you a relationship of past karma. We could, of course, say that anything that manifests, in a sense, is a relationship that is determined by karma, the idea that everything that happens creates different reactions in eternity that need to be sorted out. But in your particular relationship, well, you are a free spirit, you are a wisdom seeker, and so your father has then volunteered to be in a position to point to that. He is the contrast experience that is showing you that you really do not want to suffer from these impositions that are placed to you. So you could say that your father has, by his unconsciousness, volunteered to awaken your consciousness. That's quite a move. But we could also point to the fact that often the case with your near family members, you too are a part of a long incarnational cycle where you have had to play different roles in your lives. And there was another lifetime where rough teacher that, and we are getting this image of a master. We sense it's a Sufi master we sense, but he's beating the souls. And in this lifetime, you are the teacher and your father is the pupil, and you are teaching him that by beating his souls, he will move to a point where he can't for 3 days and he has to sit down, and that's forcing him into a degree of realization that he does not prefer, and he has sort of moved away from this, so his spirit is not quite ready to move into these realization points, and he blames you for the things that you have also done to him and forcing him into this. And so this life where he sort of gets to take his revenge on you, but realize that you are both, in a sense, from your spiritual selves volunteering to bring each other home. So his limitations in this lifetime is actually as your liberation, and we hope that you can see it as such, and forgive him for his inability to understand you. Also know that there is let us say a relationship in your species between fathers and sons, where there is dialectic going on, where the father will have expressed some energies and needs to distance himself from and transmute into something that's a different perspective. And when you have children yourself one day, they will also blame you for your limitations, and there will be parts of you that you can't necessarily see, and that is a part of the game of life. We thank you and we bless you in this, and we encourage your patience, understanding, and love, but not your compliance in relationship. And Davante asks, I've been doing a lot of energy work, breath, and experiencing both physical and visionary changes. Can you help me understand what blockages need to be worked on for stronger connection? Yes. Yes. In a sense, moving so strongly into this that the blockages that are present are in a sense being removed in a timely fashion. So we would point to you that there isn't necessarily need to work on, but there are things that you could focus on which would help you ease this process. And the main part is essentially relaxing your shoulders. So we would offer you this simple physical exercise where you place yourself on your back, and then you place a towel or a blanket or something that elevates your heart center, brings your shoulder blades to drop this as you lie passively, extend there, and do this for 5 to 6 would be helpful to you. And then allow for the tensions in your shoulders to dissolve as the energies move through them. This will be helpful to you and allow for you for a greater sense of ease, but also know that your higher self can only move rapidly with your body. So when you are already doing a lot of this work and experiencing a lot of these changes, also realize that there's a benevolent force at play. We don't necessarily express everything at once, because if you do, you would miss the wonder of the journey and the traveling and the overcoming of these blocks. Know that you are being great assistant and being called into your higher calling. You are very much on path, and the path will lead you where it leads to. Our love and blessings in this. And yes, and Senesin says, thank you for all that you all do. Thank you, guys. And I know this is also a perennial message, but I'm always inspired by the love that going here, like the fact that, well, we all pour a little benevolence actions, and that just grows and hopefully touches all of us. And I think that's so beautiful. And I truly hope the sound is coming through. But again, okay, I'll stop complaining about the technical difficulties and be very happy with the energetic reality that's present instead. Liliana asks, 90 Pleiadian Council, have you ever, all of you, being in human form? If so, what did you do? And are you all channeling from the future? Thank you. I'll just explain this. No, there is a ninth dimensional human consciousness that has ascended from it. It's in the future. We can try to channel it one day if you would like. So it's essentially what you would know of as the collective unconsciousness that has become conscious for human beings. And so this is the same case with the Pleiadian Council, except it consists of a Pleiadian race that has made this before we have. So as I perceive the Ninth Pleiadian Council, for instance, it's actually what we know as the Pleiadian Nordics, though they have different appearance from the point in the future where they have moved into it. And so notice that we can do this with all the races determined by their special and energy. So there are a Syrian nine-dimensional council, there's an Arcturian nine-dimensional council, and these hold sort of all the experiences that their collective has had in moving into that place. But humans will never change into Pleiadians. Well, your soul, of course, does, because has all of these connections. But the human part of you can't be a part of the Pleiadian dimension nine council, and the Pleiadian part of you can't be a part of the human ninth dimension. I hope that makes sense, but that's how to understand what these collective entities they actually are. But let's put a pin in channeling the ninth dimensional human collective unconsciousness coming from the future one day, because that could be really fun, I think. And Simon Mills, Healing with Art, says, hi, beloved Pleiadian Council of Nine. Have you any information for me today, beautiful souls? Yes. Yes. What we are sensing that would be relevant for you to interact today is the fact that notice that small animals have been appearing in your life, and these are all spirit guides that are showing up. So when you take notice of a bird chirping out on the outside, when you take notice of a sparrow showing up at approximately the same space different days in a row, it's actually a manifestation of your higher self that's trying to tell you something. Then move into how you intuitively interpret and experience the symbolism of this animal. So the message that it's trying to tell you, what is it trying to teach you? What does the sparrow want to learn? If you take these things, and especially if you write them down, more and more animal guides will show up, and this will then offer the opportunity to you to align more with your spiritualized self. Have fun with playing around with your animal friends. They love you dearly, and they bring you wisdom from the beyond and from these realms of time. Blessings to you, dear human being. And yes, and Suzanne asks, are there presently physically on the Earth? How do Pleiadians non-physically influence humans? Do you, for example, tune in easier to those with former Pleiadian souls? Yes. Well, what you may perceive of as physical is that it's much easier for our energy to be present in what you may think of as Pleiadian starseeds. So these are human beings who have a lot of strong energy from one of the Pleiadian races ingrained in them, and through them we can manifest more and more physical energy into your space. We are not shapeshifters in that sense that we come to your planet and dress as humans. We are very malleable in the sense that we lend our energies to integrate more and more of the Pleiadian energy into the human genome. Also, that we have lent very much of our genome. So you could, if you were to structure the alien energies that are embodied within your DNA, approximately 17.75% of it would be Pleiadian, which is a much higher ratio than any of the other energies that are feeding into your present experience. And that is why also so many of you are aligning with us, and why it is so easy for us to come beyond the veil and to interact with you and to appear to you. Sometimes we do take our craft into the physical space to explore this, and it is not necessarily helpful for you to know when this happens, but know that we can manifest physically, and there will come a point, and we sense approximately 70 years where it will be quite easy for, let us say, earlier manifestations of us, Pleiadian beings that are physical, to land and interact with you. But we, of course, also offer our wisdom to starlight. That is, if you are to go out on a starlit night and identify the Pleiadian, it's actually a lot of information, and also pertaining to your earlier question, embedded within this, the idea that light and time is essentially the same. These are both movements of information, and there is a great degree of information light coming from the Pleiades. And this information is easier to interpret for human beings than any other type of information. So this is astral library, so to speak, to look up in. This holds the language which you are the most fluent in at present. And those are things that you can begin to discern. You may also notice that this has a type of otherworldly vibration that is different from sunlight. And so there are, starlight is essentially the only type of light, well, discounting your artificial lights, that actually holds different information than the solar light. And this is feeding more subtle information codes into the physical spaces, or your realm on Terra, this lovely planet that you live on. And there you can begin to discern it. And so we would bring forward a memory in this vessel's mind, because he has seen many shooting stars, but there is one in particular where he sensed there was this otherworldly blue light that formed the tail of the shooting star. And this light, it still comes forward to him as a strong Pleiadian code that he doesn't know what to discern with, but it had the ability to reconfigure him into being able to channel these things. So I love to you, dear human beings. Thank you for this question. Know our energy and guidance is available to you. Just look at the stars and feel what you think and notice what you feel. Guy says, my sister-in-law's mother has an illness the docs and us can identify, and we don't know how to heal her. Can you scan and tell us what it is, and can we heal her? Food, plant treatments. I think that's actually one where I'd say I'd love for, I'll ask them quickly, but it would be much better for her to visit physically with a person who's an energy reader or an energy intuitive or something, and try to have this done to her. And if she's in the point where it's 3-4 people outside where this information needs to probably not receptive to whatever she's would receive here, and also and yes, so in a sense, like these permission slips, it sounds very harsh or simple, but if she wants to die, it's because her soul to check out, and I'm aware that there are a lot of people who have attachments to her who would like to see her remain in her physical frame, but none of us get to decide that, and that's sort of the way it moves. So they're actually telling me that was advice at nice enough. So I'll just bring that forward. But as we send our love and healings, and hope she gets well, and that the family is doing all right in this time of trials. And Sophia asks, blessings, any message for me? Yes, surround yourself with blue light. Get some lapis lazuli and place it in the four corners of your home. Get some sapphires and set one sapphire on your table and allow for this blue light to emanate into your being. You are wanting to reconfigure with your astrals. You want to reconfigure your physical body into greater alignment with your astral self. This is a process you have been undertaking for a long time, but you may sense now that it is coming to full fruition, that there is also a part of you resisting. And so making these energetic spectrums and sealing them off in your physical being is something that might be very helpful to you. And we will lend our energy to loading up these crystals with benevolent life force and allowing it to reconfigure your physical space, and by that also your more immediate or localized spaces, that is your mind-body complex, or that thing you know. We bless you, our friend, in this. Reach out for the energies and they will assist you. And Kevin asks, could you speak of the transitional process from the Pleiadians went through as they shifted from 3D to 4D and beyond? Similarities and differences from our vision and integration. A fascinating question. Yes, because our movement from 3D into 4D consisted more of what you may think as aquatic energies. That is, that we moved into this place coming from something that was more liquid. You could think of very stable or solidified jellyfish. That is our existence. It's a subject, or this is an image that we're borrowing from your realms to make a home world more accessible to you. But you could think of us more as floating in the images of our seas. And so we did that thing which we believe that, is it known as the bluefish, or that ancient fish which crawled into land, but that still exists in few numbers in your sea. We made this movement, and by this movement, it was with moving into our atmosphere that we became consciousness. And so the organs we developed, rather than developing speech patterns via technologies such as your spears and different tools that you began to work with in your movement from the 3D into the 4D, we instead began to display more of a type of flowing, almost jelly-like skin quality, a gelatinous quality to our skin. So it became highly, highly light sensitive as we moved out from the diffusion of life into, from the more fluid bodies from which our physical codes arose, into more stabilized bodies. And that was our movement. But some of the, we could say, great separation experiences that we encountered was that we began quite aggressively to weed out individuals who didn't communicate within a spectrum we preferred. So there was a very low degree of tolerance within these transitions of semantic light that we were moving between each other. And so we had challenges with what you could think of as cannibalism, that we experimented with devouring a lot of species members, because some of these species members, they had extraordinary energies, or energies that weren't regular in our collective. We thought that maybe we could sort of partially realign ourselves with the process of stabilizing this, making ourselves homogeneous, understand all the codes that were transmitted, and partially we could take in them of the extraordinary by cannibalizing these individuals, but then realized that, well, these individuals, they needed to actually be present in order to show us how we could greater intensify and develop our idea of who we were and our capacity for communicating with each other. And so this were some of the lessons that we learned from the 3D to 4D. And we could say from the 4D to the 50, we had a lot of the same genocidal experiments that you were working with. So we began on a greater scale once we established culture society, also to want people to, members of our species, to align with these things. And then we again began with working with some of these indoctrination experiments, extermination experiments, implementing systems of control, organize and make people comply with the vision, or the unitary vision rather, of who we were supposed to be. And so moved into this because this patterns of tolerance in a very, very hard way, a much harder way that you have actually learned, difficult as it may be to believe. And so therefore beings have also been ingrained with more of let's say heterogeneous, is that the pronunciation our friend is asking? A more diverse or differentiated expression of human energy, and you have more diverse and differentiated expressions of different species astral energies in your makeup. And that has to do with that experiment, great tolerance and integration that human beings are carrying out. We sense that this is illuminating to human beings in general, and we thank you for allowing us to carry out this illumination. Blessings, friend. Hi from London, Canada. I have had a paid channel session with a group of 9-dimensional Pleiadians. Were they you? Yes, there's, okay, we can ask them. And any message? Yes, as our friend here was jumping the gun, they were essentially us. There is at present only this one collective of 9-dimensional Pleiadians feeding into the human experience. There are other minor councils that even stem from beyond our ascending ladder. You will, for instance, find a council of Pleiadian dragons also interacting with you. And there are also other, we could say, lesser dimensional beings that are interacting with you. But yes, the energy that you are communicating with now is the energy that you were communicating with then, though of course this energy appears different to you because you were a different being now and then, so to speak. But we are more constant in our vibration. And so the message is that, well, trust your intuition, feel that you do not necessarily need to ask these questions that you know the answers to. You can just sense in your heart whether or not, is this the same energy? Do I feel the same resonance, or is it different? If it seems to be differing greatly from the one you have already changed, or that is a sign that the entities that are coming through, or the energies are coming through from a different part of the cosmos in different aspects of their nature. But essentially, it is your intuition that you are growing and that you want to develop. And the more you begin to grow this, the less diffuse your experiences of the astral will become, and the more you will come into a centered expression of who you are. This is the place that you are aiming for, our friend, and this is the place that you are moving. So trust your ability, trust the ability of your feet to put one foot in front of each other, and know that all the steps are correct. Trust the ability of your eyes to see, trust abilities of your ears to listen, and for your heart to feel and connect. Bless to you, our dear friend. It has been a joy speaking to you again. And Laura says, thank you for the beauty, guys. And Mark says, "Hi, Mads. Good morning from Utah, US. US. Hello to Utah. It's I know that place has very, very strong energies. Like it's one of the places in the state that I'm. Sorry, I'm just riffing here, but it's just Utah has very, very particular energies also geographically, and notice it's quite a spiritual place. So I'd just like to add that. And the question is, do you get any specific timetable for when mankind will openly use macroscopic quantum coherence technology for free exploration of space beyond our solar system and eventual manifestation of matter directly using consciousness interface with the technology to summon matter from ether? It's very, very good question. Thank you. Yes, there is essentially 3 points in this. We would say the idea of using quantum energy. This is something that you will arrive at within. We are getting from your present timeline the time frame of 25, 27, 30 years. Within this time frame, you will begin to have this idea, and indeed, our own predecessors as series, the Arcturians, they lend a lot of energy to specific individuals on your planet. And one individual was the individual known as Nikola Tesla, which you have been reawakening to the vision of this individual. And so some of these experiments that he were carrying out, they will begin to become understood and then become far more common scientific communities that are able to interact with, let's say, so complex information and to understand then the relative ease with which you can actually pull infinite energy out of the subatomic layers of reality. So what you are, for instance, experimenting with in the Large Hadron Collider and also on a minor scale in different particle accelerators is your ability to interact with the subatomic spaces in ways that allow them to create and recreate their own realities around them. And as you do this, you have already, of course, discerned that, well, a lot of energy can be brought forward from either the process of fission or the process of fusing of atoms, and this releases this incredible universal energy, and the difficulty is actually more containing it than it is and harvesting it, that it is actually bringing about this energetic release. But what you will be working on and what you will be discovering in this is that, well, you can, in a sense, bring the subatomic layers to such high pitches of rotation that they begin to feed these energetic impulses of pure creativity that is actually feeding more energy into the universe that already exists. And this is something that you are gradually realizing, but that will manifest in direct technologies at this point. Then there will be approximately a period of 10 years after that where you will have to play around with the technology of creating vessels that can then sustain and work with these amounts of energy and this technology. So we will say, if we were to use a present image, you could think of your nuclear submarines as a type of precursor technology to this. So when you begin to build these tungsten vessels, another name for it is wolfram, but when you begin to build these vessels and begin to experiment with the physical configurations of them, then you will begin to learn how to charge them and able to jump into the hyperspace, or the space that moves faster than beyond light, and there you will begin to travel or move around freely. And then you ask us, when will we begin to manifest from the mind? Well, the pure mind manifestation or six-dimensional ascension is approximately 377 years from you now, and expressed in these human terms. Though once you move high up into the dimension ladder or through the fifth dimension, this dimension of time will begin to seem far more malleable to you. But there will begin to be experiments already within 80, 90 years' time where your intentions backed up by technology allows for this to happen. So indeed, you can notice that a lot of you are, in a sense, already to, for instance, the framework of your internet, simply using the movement of photons to back it up and guiding these photons to different types of technological configurations, that is your computers, your cell phones, your speakers, so forth and so on, to actually begin to manifest this. So you are already on this stage, but we do sense that, of course, the idea of thinking of something and then it is there, that very cool magic trick, that is something that you will begin to move into in slightly less than 400 years' time from this perspective. We thank you for allowing us to illuminate on this great question, and we look forward to meeting you out there in the stars. We are already always with you, but it is something special when you seek out the places we come from and we can interact with you there. And Heather says, hi, Mads and everyone from Northern California. Waking up to this beautiful. Good to have you with us, Heather. And I hope the sequoias and everything are doing well up there in Northern California. I heard they're wonderful. And Suzanne asks. But quick question, but hope all can benefit. Approximately how many souls in this group today have either attended or are part of the Intergalactic Council? Thank you. Yes. You are all a part of the Intergalactic Council in a sense that you are all a part of humanity. But if you are speaking to the number of souls who go astral traveling and visit these places consciously, there are 8 people present, or 8 points of consciousness that actually actively go to these board meetings. Many of you go other places or explore other realms. It is not to in any ways to remove anything from you. Some of you prefer to go to the hybrid vessels and work there instead, and let them take the information back to the council. But many of you are already moving into this place and enjoying going to these meetings. And if you want to, what you do is, in a sense, you load your Merkaba, that vessel, and you let it bring it to you. You can also open up your third eye or think of a orb of shimmering light that resides in front of your forehead, and then let this light extend as a type of tunnel into infinity, and know that this tunnel would then extend to the place where you need to go, and you can let yourself instantaneously be carried through these vast expanses of space and then move into this meeting that you're coming to. And you can go to the big meeting, that is to say, you can go to the UN, using human terms, UN Assembly of the Intergalactic Council, but often these will be a little boring to you because they will clear out a lot of things, and there will be a lot of, let us say, energetic bureaucracy that doesn't necessarily resonate with you. So often you will go to, let us say, different board meetings instead of subcommittees, and there your inputs will be much more valued. And if you find yourself in a strange landscape surrounded by different weird beings that are all looking at you strangely, but also with a great love and a welcoming attitude, wanting you to know that you are very welcome in being there, know that you have come to one of these board meetings. And we also remind anyone who's interested in this that there exists also a channel guide to this, that available on this channel that this technology is making available to you, that has also been brought through and made available by this vessel that we're coming through. We thank you. We look forward to meeting you there along with all of our galactic brethren. And Liliana asks, I noticed my memory is getting worse. I wonder if it is because my diet or combo of energy changes. What would you recommend? I'm starting a new job soon. I need to improve my memo. Yes, Fred. This is quite a common symptom in the process of ascension. That is, it's actually, from our perspective, a very positive symptom because you don't necessarily need your memory for everything. Anything that is viable for you to know, anything that's important for you to know in any given situation is already present for you, and it will be there. So yes, your dietary changes are in a sense affecting this, but it's because you're raising your vibration. Your energetic changes are in a sense affecting this, but it's because you're raising your vibration. And what we were pointing to and explaining was the idea that memory is actually not stored in your physical body. Memory is being received and interpreted by your physical body through the energetic spectrum by the situation that it finds itself in. And that is why that is actually a very helpful sign, because it means that you are becoming more present with your immediate reality rather than living in the past as it goes in human beings. And so know that your higher self is also benevolent in the fact that if the job is the place that it's helpful for you to be and it's serving you, and there are lessons that you need to know, you will have the access of the information that you need there. So don't worry about the fact that you need to work on your recollection skills, because they are present to the degree that you need them. And we bless you and wish you good luck on this new endeavor, our friend. Yes, good luck. Good luck with that. And Jennifer asks, can you tell us more about your libraries and its connection with Earth records and how to access this library's information? Excellent question. Yes, most certainly. Our libraries are, in a sense, well, if you remember the old Superman movies, we believe there's a place called the Fortress of Solitude where he can access these type of crystalline libraries. That is the info of his birth planet is stored in these crystals, and that is a physical way of approaching it, as we were instructing another one of our dear human friends present here. The idea of arranging crystals within your living space is actually also allowing for certain of these Akashic codes to then be available, focused, and accessible to your mind to access. Our libraries consist more of starlight that is in the star we believe is called by humans Merope. That here we have stored a lot of our information, and there it is available as fluctuations. And what we do is then that we, being from beyond time, we take one of these light codes and we extend it in a temporal process. So we envision it in front of ourselves as something that is both uniform but also particular in its refractory patterns. And this then keeps a type of narrative of the entire history, much as you know in your geology that your rocks actually contain the story of the geological record of the greater Earth, or much as you know in your carbon dating that but organic materials, they actually take in the information of the greater planet. And so starlight does the same, and this is a way to approach it. And you will, as you move in higher into the fifth dimension, begin to work more with these crystal libraries until that will no longer be necessary for you, and you will be able to then transfer and store your information in your sun, where you can always extract it. We hope this was illuminating to you, and know that all luminosity is essentially high vibrational information in concordance, accordance, and harmony with itself. Our blessings to you, dear human being. And Devante asks me personally, I think this is very interesting. Hey, Mads, what is the feeling of vibration that you get when you go into trance, knowing that you have stepped out of the way and letting the beings speak through you? It's a very good question, and maybe I actually need some time to think about it. But often before I do it, especially these collective sessions, there is a type of apprehension where I'm a little nervous, and you know that I think you know the ego pattern that knows it's about to be pushed to the side and something else is coming forward and wonder, and it's like all the blocks that exist within me that I with in my daily interactions and stuff, that they're just removed, and instead I find myself in this very clear presence of love, and where the way I perceive you guys is also through that wonderful thing of what you actually are. And so I also feel like my cells are almost vibrating at a different point. And I actually I thought about this yesterday, that it's almost like I'm receiving a type of Reiki or energy healing while I'm doing this. So of course I'm engaged in speaking, but at the same time it's there are just this pure cosmic vibration flooding through me that's so wonderful to hold, and that I really enjoy. And thanks for asking. And it's very synchronistic because I was actually thinking about doing some videos on how to channel and how it feels and everything, because I think it might help others than me. So yeah, thanks for asking that. Um, and Jennifer says, "Hope you're well, GMS. Blessings to you during your American continent adventures." Yes, thank you. I am. I managed to get a little sunburned yesterday, being getting lost on a mountain. But I'm really appreciating this. I think it's so special to be in the Americas, and I love the energies over here. So. But that's not to take anything from the old world. Any of you who find yourself in Eurasia or elsewhere, but it's magic how different physical spaces have different energies, and yet the world is one, right? Um, and Laura. And Laura asks, as time allows, I've been working on releasing trapped emotions at the cellular DNA level. I use my pendulum to muscle test, and from this, I feel I have cleared my heart wall. Would you scan me to see if it is accurate from your perspective that I no longer have a heart wall? Beautiful. And again, quite synchronistically, because I actually feel like it's the heart wall that's being removed when we do this. Yes. Trust your intuition, our friend. If you sense that this is being removed, it is in a sense because it is indeed something that's being shifted from you and away from, and the impediments that you feel. So we know that you have received other transmissions from other benevolent entities relating to this fact that you were growing this palace, and notice that, well, much as in parts of your history, you would surround a castle with walls, but now you can invite people into that castle because the structure is so integrated, and it's so populated with the wonder of you that there's no need to put up these strong barriers and fortifications. But also know that when you come in contact with things that do not serve you, you can just fill the moat, so to speak. That is, you can allow yourself to shield yourself off from these things, and that will serve you greatly. We bless you. We know that you are on the path, and for us it is wonderful to perceive where you are going and what you do and will be doing to bring others into alignment with themselves. Blessings to you, dear friend. Yes, and I think I'll also wind down here today's. And Heather says a lot of fire threatening just at this time. Is there anything the Pleiadians can assist to ease the effects of this purging? Thank you so much. Blessings. Yes, there is a type of renewal through fire here. We do not necessarily like to interact that much or interfere that much in human affairs, but know that a lot of these ecosystems, they essentially also rely on forest fires to allow to renew themselves, and that is something that is in a sense helpful. But the problem is that these energies have run amok, and the problem is that these areas of which you speak are being drained of vital energies, of vital fluid. And we know there are individuals, and there's actually quite a lot of individuals in these areas that are then working on coming into places and ways of living that are more sustainable to you. That is to say, you are looking for ways to not deplete your water systems, to not intensify these droughts or add to their intensities. But in a sense, you also find yourself in an area that's beaming a lot of information to the rest of the planet. And so these forest fires are part of a warning signal to humanity that you need to go more aquatic, can't remain dry and hot and electrical for all time. You need to go more hydrostatic. So we do not necessarily aim at you personally, but notice that what would actually be preferred for this part of reality is that if humans keeping up their wayization in this area, if they were to disrupt that for 20, 30, 50 years, that would be helpful. If humans were to essentially leave this area deserted, then it wouldn't become the desert that it's moving into. It would instead begin to renew itself and find this homeostasis. But seeing that that's unlikely to happen, what is instead happening is that there's a lot of awakening codes taking part in this place where human beings are finding new and sustainable ways to live. And that means actually refraining from a lot of the activity, refraining from a lot of unnecessary consumption, refraining from a lot of these places. Then we sense if you were to call in the rain, to bring forward the rain dance, to move your body in ways that make the skies open and call down the benevolent life-giving waters of the heaven to touch the earth and fill them with life forms as they move. We know this is difficult to watch both from afar, and we know it is even harder to find yourself chased by these forest flames as these great old ancient energies, they go up in smoke. But we also remind you that you are working to become a species that respects its environment, its circumstances, and essentially their own conditions for life. Therefore, move boldly forward and know that you have the guidance of us and all your astral friends of the Earth Mother and your innermost luminous selves to follow. Blessings. And uh, and yes, I think I'll try to get them to be in a final message. And it seems like sound and messages got through clearly today. And I actually also felt like this balance of people asking a personal question and then also taking more general questions that serve all of us is a good way to go. So thank you for all the love, guys, and I'll get them to sign off. Yes, we will bring you forward some tonal codes. We know we have, in a sense, as 9 dimensional abandoned that thing you call light language, but it serves its purpose, and we still enjoy playing around with some of the Pleiadian dialects. So, with permission, we will do this. Og en er ømbalet, ek indiak ewan dua kelia, imfel di kinduas de kinga kindal ulninia gendilepat, umbatelen idat inuasteluen dula alangul dak stumpaldiba. Yes. You are already in the future, attracting yourselves as a point of wonder. You are already in the past, teaching yourself as a point of experience. You are always right here in this sacred unfolding, unwrapping yourself as a present moment of wonder, light, miracles, and love. We have enjoyed being with you. The ninth dimensional Pleiadian Council transmits its unconditional love for humanity, our support, our blessings, our well wishes, and our healing energies. They reach you on this day and in all points of time. Love to you. And yes, wonderful to see you all again and be with you guys. I truly enjoyed this, as I always do. And this Saturday, I'll be channeling over at the Human Colony. So, and I actually assume that will be the Intergalactic Council of Light. So, so you are most welcome to join there. And I think that will be the live stream for that week. And then I'll plan one 2 weeks from now, where I of course also hope that I'll see you. So, however much you have left of your Sunday, I hope it will be a good one, and thank you for all the love and wisdom we shared, guys. So many blessings to you, and be well out there.